You ever sit there and wonder why the hell you had to go through that? Why it had to hurt that much? Why nobody showed up when you needed them most? It's strange, isn't it? How life gives you 1,000 reasons to quit, and yet somehow you're still here, still breathing, still trying to understand why the pain keeps showing up at your door. Listen, that pain wasn't random. It was a message, a brutal, silent, unforgiving teacher shaping you into someone stronger than you ever asked to be. Every time you were betrayed, every night you sat there wondering if it'll ever make sense that was life testing your foundation. And the reason you're not like them anymore, the reason you see the world differently now, is because pain opened your eyes. You don't need validation anymore. You don't need someone to tell you you're doing okay. You learned how to rebuild yourself even when your hands were shaking. That's what people don't understand. Pain isn't weakness leaving the body that's a lie they tell in gyms and Instagram captions. Pain is truth entering the body. It's reality breaking every illusion you had about comfort, love, and loyalty. You lost people who promised to stay. You failed when you gave it everything. You looked in the mirror and didn't even recognize who you were anymore. But here's the part nobody talks about. Every scar, every breakdown, every night you thought it was over, was the very thing building the version of you that's meant to lead your future. You had to lose the old you, because that version was too soft for what's coming, too trusting, too forgiving, too naive to realize that not everyone deserves your heart. Now you see through things. You see people's intentions. You move differently. You think before reacting. That's not trauma, that's wisdom disguised as scars. And I know you still have days where it all feels heavy, where you wake up tired, where you wish things went differently. But here's something you need to understand. You didn't survive all of that just to stay broken. All that pain wasn't for nothing. It was sculpting something inside you. A mindset, a hunger, a focus. You're not fragile anymore. You're precise. You're intentional. You've become the kind of person who doesn't need motivation because your pain became your purpose. So stop asking why me and start asking what now? What are you going to do with everything you've learned from the fire you walked through? Because it would be the greatest tragedy to survive all of that and still act like it didn't change you. You've been through too much to move like you haven't evolved. Your silence, your calmness, your distance, they're not weakness. They're control. You know who you are now. You know what you want. And maybe for the first time in your life, you finally know what you'll never tolerate again. That's your gift. That's the meaning of your pain. You suffered for a reason. Now it's time to use it. You know what's crazy? Most people never change. Not because they can't, but because they don't suffer deeply enough to. They stay in their comfort zones, complaining, blaming, pretending they're fine. But when you've been broken down to your knees, when you've stared at the ceiling at 3 a.m. wondering what the hell happened to your life, you don't stay the same. You can't. That's when real transformation begins, not when life's easy, not when things are calm, but when you've got nothing left to prove except that you won't die here. You learn this the hard way. The world doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't care how much you tried. It rewards those who adapt, those who endure, those who find strength in chaos. And you adapted. You may not realize it yet, but every time you got back up, even quietly, you were teaching yourself discipline. Every time you stayed calm instead of reacting, you were mastering self-control. Every time you swallowed your anger and chose growth instead of revenge, you were evolving into a different beast. Pain has a way of teaching you what comfort never will. It strips you of illusions. It exposes your weaknesses. And when you stop running from it, it turns into energy. You start building silently. You start cutting people off without drama. You stop explaining yourself to those who will never understand you. Stop chasing things that drain you. Because you finally realize your peace is worth more than being liked, and your future is worth more than being understood. That's the moment everything shifts. That's when you stop surviving and start creating. You look at your past and say, I'm not going to let this define me. I'm going to use it. Because that's what warriors do. They don't beg the world to go easy. They build themselves so strong that nothing can break them again. And yes, you'll still have moments of weakness, days where you wanted to disappear. But now, instead of drowning in it, you channel it. You put it in your grind, you put it in your vision, you let it sharpen you instead of destroy you. That's power. That's what it means to turn pain into purpose. Think about this. The same pain that once made you cry can become the fuel that makes you unstoppable. The same rejection that made you question your worth can become the drive that builds your empire. The same loneliness that once broke you can become the silence where your ideas are born. You see, the pain didn't change you for the worse. It woke you up. It made you realize what you truly need and what you were settling for. Now you move with focus. You don't talk too much. You don't overshare. You observe. You build. You strike only when it's time. That's not coldness. That's evolution. Because the world doesn't reward the emotional. It rewards the controlled. And when you learn to master yourself, you become untouchable. Let the pain be your teacher, not your prison. You've already survived the worst parts. Now it's about building the kind of life that makes every scar worth it. And here's the thing nobody tells you. People will look at you one day, see the calm in your eyes, the quiet confidence in your walk, and they'll think you were just born different. They'll never know it was the pain that built you. They'll never know it was the loneliness, the rejections, the nights nobody saw. But you'll know, and that's enough. That's your edge, that's your fire, and that's why you'll win. Because the truth is, no one's coming to save you. No miracle, no lucky break, no sudden motivation out of nowhere. It's just you and the choice you make every single day to either stay the same or evolve. Most people waste their lives waiting for the perfect moment, but the moment never comes. The pain does, the doubt does, the fear does, and that's exactly what you're supposed to face. That's where the growth hides, in the parts of life you try to avoid. Every uncomfortable thing you push through rewires your brain to believe that you can handle more. Every time you keep going when you don't feel like it, you build mental armor that no one can take from you. That's how greatness is built, not through comfort, but through consistency and chaos. You don't need to be loud about it. Real growth doesn't announce itself. It happens when you disappear for a while, when you choose discipline over distraction, when you quietly put in the reps while everyone else is wasting time proving something online. You don't need to prove anything. The results will do the talking. The world respects results, not excuses. So stop explaining your silence. Stop trying to make them understand your vision. They won't. They can't. Because it's not their path, it's yours. Let them think you've fallen off while you're rebuilding in the dark. Because when you come back, it'll be with something they can't ignore. Let them laugh now. You'll be the one smiling later. And when that time comes, remember this. You didn't rise because life got easier. You rose because you got stronger. You learned to move even when your mind said stop. You learned to stay calm when your world fell apart. You learned to trust the process even when nothing made sense. That's the kind of strength no one can fake. The pain that once broke you has now become your foundation. The rejection that made you question yourself is now your reason to push harder. The solitude that once scared you has now become your sanctuary. This is what transformation looks like. It's not pretty, it's not quick, it's not easy, but it's real. And one day, you'll look back and realize that the pain wasn't your enemy, it was your awakening. You ever notice how the people who went through the most pain are the calmest ones in the room? It's not because life was kind to them. It's because they've already been burned by the fire and now nothing scares them anymore. They stopped expecting the world to be fair. They stopped waiting for people to save them. They learned that peace isn't found by avoiding pain, but by surviving it and realizing it can't control you anymore. That's what strength really is. You don't get stronger by pretending everything's fine. You get stronger by standing in the middle of the chaos and saying, even if this breaks me, I'll rebuild again. Most people run from pain, but pain is the only real teacher. It humbles you. It strips away your illusions. It forces you to meet the raw version of yourself, the one that doesn't need validation, applause, or anyone to tell you you're enough. That's the part of you that can't be destroyed anymore. You think you're behind because of what you went through, but that pain built endurance. You just don't see it yet. It's like carrying heavy weights every day without realizing your muscles are growing. One day you'll look back and see that what was meant to break you actually became your foundation. You'll understand that all those nights you spent overthinking weren't wasted. They were your training grounds. You were learning how to survive, how to keep going when your heart wanted to stop. That's why you can't quit now. That's why you can't give up just because it still hurts. The pain is not proof you're weak. It's proof you're still alive, still moving, still fighting. The world won't hand you peace, but it will give you opportunities to earn it. Every scar on your soul is evidence that you've earned the right to rise again. And when people see you now, they'll think you're just calm or cold. But they'll never know how much chaos it took for you to become this steady. They'll never know how many times you broke before you became unbreakable. And that's the thing about pain. It doesn't announce when it's done teaching you. You just wake up one day and you stop reacting the way you used to. What used to break you only makes you breathe slower, think clearer. You start to realize you don't have to prove anything anymore. Not to the world, not to the people who doubted you, not even to your past self. Because the real power isn't in showing everyone that you made it. It's in knowing you could have given up, and you didn't. You stood there, bleeding, tired, lost, and you still kept walking. That's strength. The quiet kind that doesn't scream or need validation. You see, everyone wants to rise, but no one wants to fall first. Yet the fall is what teaches you how to climb. The suffering is what teaches you discipline. The losses are what give meaning to your wins. Without pain, you'd never develop focus. Without heartbreak, you'd never learn patience. Without failure, you'd never build self-respect. That's why you can't hate your story. You can't resent the past that made you who you are. Because even if it hurt, it shaped your armor. It gave you perspective. It forced you to understand that peace is something you build, not something you're given. And maybe that's the real gift of pain. It makes you self-sufficient. It makes you dangerous in a quiet way. Because now, You don't fear losing anything. You already lost before, and you survived. So you start moving differently. You stop chasing people. You stop explaining yourself. You stop begging life to be fair. You just move with a purpose that others can't understand. They think you become emotionless, but that's not true. You just outgrew the version of you that used to break over everything. You feel more now, not less. You just learned to control it. That's why all that pain wasn't for nothing. It carved you into someone who can't be shaken by temporary storms. You're not cold. You're calm. You're not broken. You're built. And one day, that pain that made you question your worth will become the reason you never question it again. And the moment you realize that, something shifts inside you. You stop asking, why me, and start saying, try me. You start using every ounce of pain as fuel. Every insult, every rejection, every failure, it becomes part of your training. Because life isn't supposed to be soft. It's not supposed to hand you comfort every time you fall. It's supposed to test your limits, break your patterns, and force you to evolve. The ones who keep winning aren't always the strongest. They're just the ones who refuse to stay broken. You see, most people never make it because they keep waiting for things to feel right. They think healing means not hurting anymore. But no, real healing is walking with the wound still open, doing what needs to be done anyway. It's showing up to the fight even when your hands are shaking. That's how you build real power, not by escaping pain, but by carrying it and still moving forward. And when you do that long enough, your pain becomes silent discipline. It stops screaming and starts working. It becomes your drive when motivation dies, your focus when everything else falls apart. It whispers to you in the quiet, keep going, this isn't the end. One day you'll look back and realize that everything you begged to be over was actually preparing you for something greater. The people who left, the chances you missed, the things that didn't work out, they all made space for the version of you that could handle what's coming. That's the meaning of it all. So don't numb the pain. Don't run from it. Let it teach you what softness never could. Let it turn you into something unbreakable. Because if you're still here, still breathing, still trying, then none of that pain was wasted. It was the process. It was the price of becoming you. The truth is, pain doesn't disappear. You just outgrow it. You stop letting it define you. You stop replaying what broke you and start focusing on what it taught you. Because every time you rise after being knocked down, you rewrite your story. You stop being the victim and start becoming the author. And that's when life starts to respect you. See, the universe doesn't reward comfort, it rewards growth. It doesn't give blessings to the soft. It gives them to the ones who've bled for something. You want peace? Earn it. You want strength? Bleed for it. You want meaning? Walk through the fire until you find it. There's no shortcut around suffering, only through it. Most people run from pain because they think it means something's wrong. But pain is often proof that something's changing. You're not the same person you were before. You've been stretched, tested, refined. And even though it hurts now, someday you'll understand that was the moment your strength was built. There's a version of you waiting on the other side of all this chaos. One that doesn't flinch anymore. One that doesn't chase validation or beg for peace. One that creates it. That version of you isn't built in comfort, it's built in storms. And you'll only meet them when you stop running. So when life feels unbearable, remember this, it's not punishment, it's preparation. Every scar on your body, every bruise on your heart, they're receipts of growth. You didn't survive for nothing. You're being shaped into something extraordinary. You just have to trust that the pain had a purpose. All that pain wasn't meant to destroy you. It was meant to wake you up. You've spent so long trying to get rid of the pain that you forgot it was never the enemy. Pain was the teacher. It was showing you what needed to change. It was pointing at the people you had to walk away from, the habits that were killing you slowly, the comfort that was making you weak. Pain was never there to end you. It was there to rebuild you from the ground up. You can't skip the dark chapters. You can't just fast forward to the part where everything makes sense. The darkness is where you earn your clarity. It's where your character is forged. When everything's taken away and you're left with nothing but your will, that's when you see who you really are. Most people will never reach their potential because they never sit with their pain long enough to learn from it. They keep distracting themselves, numbing themselves, pretending they're fine. But healing doesn't happen in denial. It happens when you stare at your scars and say, I survived that. So don't just carry your pain, study it. Let it teach you discipline. Let it teach you patience. Let it teach you empathy. Because the strongest people aren't the ones who never felt pain. They're the ones who never let it make them bitter. They learn to turn it into fuel. And maybe that's what all this was about. Maybe life had to break you just enough so you'd finally stop trying to please the world and start building yourself. Maybe all that pain wasn't punishment. It was promotion. Because now, when you rise, you'll rise differently. With power, with peace, with purpose. You'll realize in the end, pain didn't take anything from you. It gave you everything you were missing: hunger, focus, strength, and the ability to feel life deeply. That's what it means when we say, all that pain wasn't meant to be nothing. There comes a time when you stop asking, why me, and start saying, try me. Because the truth is, life was never supposed to be easy. It was supposed to shape you, refine you, make you into someone unshakable. And every time you thought it was over, every time you broke down and said you couldn't take it anymore, something inside you still got back up. That's not weakness. That's raw, untamed strength. You've been through moments where you had nothing left, no support, no energy, no light, and yet you're still here. That's not an accident. You didn't make it this far just to quit when things start getting heavy again. You've already proven you can survive the storm. Now it's time to learn how to walk through it. The pain taught you what comfort never could. It stripped away the illusions. It made you understand that nobody's coming to save you. That if you want to change, if you want to be free, you'll have to claw your way there with your bare hands if you have to. And that's okay, because now you know you can. Every scar you carry is a reminder that you didn't break. You adapted. You evolved. You rebuilt yourself stronger than before. And that's what separates those who keep repeating the same story from those who rewrite it completely. The world will never stop testing you. There will always be pain. There will always be loss. But the difference now is you know what to do with it. You know how to take that pain and turn it into energy. You know how to use it to build discipline when your motivation fades. So stop trying to run away from the fire. Walk into it. Because it's in the fire that you burn away everything that's not meant for you. The doubt, the fear, the weakness. What's left behind is pure the version of you that was always meant to rise. That's why all that pain had a purpose. It wasn't meaningless. It was the only way to awaken who you were meant to become.